"Take me home," she whispered. And for the first time he understood, home wasn't a place. It was respect. Commander Elias adjusted the controls of his small scout ship as it skimmed over the jagged mountains of the distant planet, its surface glowing faintly under the light of two suns. The scanners had picked up something unusual near the ruins of a human colony that had been destroyed decades ago. Elias wasn't expecting much, just debris, perhaps a few roaming scavengers, but his gut told him there was more. Humans were explorers, yes, but he had learned that curiosity often led to discoveries worth far more than any cargo. The ship's engines hummed steadily, vibrating through the metal floor beneath his boots. Elias studied the terrain through the viewport. Broken towers jutted from the ground like skeletal fingers. Smoke still rose from small fires, hinting at recent activity. "Command, this is Scout Elias. I'm detecting signs of life near the western perimeter of the colony," he said into the radio, though he knew no one was likely listening. Communication relays here were unreliable. Still, saying it aloud helped him focus. He descended carefully, the ship bouncing slightly over the uneven ground. Dust and small rocks skittered away from the landing pad as he brought the ship to a stop. The hum of the engines filled the air like a heartbeat. Elias grabbed his field pack, checking the weapons and supplies. He didn't expect trouble, but in this part of the galaxy, expecting nothing was dangerous. He stepped out, the harsh wind slapping against his face. The air was thin but breathable, carrying the faint scent of something burned and something alive. He crouched behind a fallen tower, scanning the area. That's when he heard it, a soft whisper carried on the wind. "Take me home." Elias froze. The voice was faint but unmistakable. It was soft, fragile, almost human. He glanced around, searching for the source. The ruins stretched for miles, jagged shadows dancing under the twin suns. No one should be here yet. Someone, or something, had spoken. "Who's there?" he called, keeping his voice calm. Silence answered him first, then movement. A small figure darted behind the debris. Not human. Her form was slender, taller than a human but delicate. Her skin shimmered slightly, like moonlight reflecting on water. Her eyes were large, dark, and intelligent, staring at him from behind the ruins. She was unarmed. She made no hostile movements. Elias's instincts told him she was terrified. I'm not here to hurt you," he said slowly, keeping his hands visible. "My name is Elias. I can help you." The figure froze. She whispered again, her voice trembling with fear and hope. "Take me home." Elias's heart tightened. He didn't understand the words fully, but the tone was clear. This was not just a plea for safety, it was longing, something deeper than survival. He approached slowly, scanning for threats. His scanner confirmed no weapons, no devices, nothing that could harm him. She stepped out from behind the ruins, hesitant. Her movements were graceful, careful, as if she were not used to being seen. Her voice was soft but clear. "I am Lyra," she said, the words carrying more weight than just a name. "I need to go home." Elias nodded slowly. "I understand. I'll help, but you have to trust me." Her eyes widened slightly. Then she nodded. It was a small gesture, but it was enough. Elias had seen humans hesitate in war, in diplomacy, in exploration, but he had never seen such raw, unguarded trust from an alien life form. It stirred something inside him, a protective instinct, a curiosity, and a deep respect. They moved carefully through the ruins. Elias noticed that the planet had remnants of human colonization, collapsed buildings, ruined transport vehicles, and the remnants of automated defense systems that had long since fallen silent. But there were signs that someone, or some thumb, had been living here since the colony's fall. Small footprints, patterns in the dust, traces of tools. Lyra seemed attuned to the land. She paused often, listening, whispering softly. "The others, they left," she said finally, almost to herself. "But I stayed. I had to. I had no choice." Elias wanted to ask more, but he didn't. Respect was more important now than interrogation. They needed to move. He led her to his ship, and she followed without hesitation, her long, slender limbs moving gracefully over the uneven ground. As they reached the ship, a sudden vibration in the air made Elias freeze, distant but unmistakable, the hum of engines, not his own. Aliens, raiders, perhaps, or a faction that had claimed this territory. He reached for his weapon, but Lyra touched his arm. "No," she said firmly but quietly. "We can survive." Not with anger. Elias paused, considering. She had fled danger alone, survived for years on a hostile planet, and now she was teaching him something. Courage was not always measured in firepower. Sometimes it was measured in restraint, in thinking ahead. The engines grew louder. Aliens were approaching fast, their movements calculated, their purpose clear. They were not friendly. Elias scanned quickly, mapping possible escape routes. The ship was small, agile enough to dodge, fast enough to outrun, but they would need a plan. "Climb in," he said. "Now." Lyra obeyed, stepping inside the ship with surprising speed. Her eyes scanned the interior, absorbing the technology, the instruments, the human ways of survival. Elias admired her calm under pressure. Humans have resilience, yes, but she had something equally rare: intelligence combined with instinct. The aliens arrived moments later, their shadowed forms moving across the ground. Elias initiated the launch sequence, the engines roaring to life. The small ship lifted smoothly, rising above the ruined colony. He banked sharply, dodging laser fire that streaked across the sky, glowing bright against the twin suns. Lyra didn't flinch. She placed her hands lightly on the console, observing, learning. Elias realized she understood more than he had thought. She wasn't just a refugee, she was an ally, a mind capable of strategy and foresight. Minutes passed like hours as they maneuvered through the mountains, evading the attackers. Finally, the last of the alien vessels broke off pursuit, unwilling to follow into the narrow passes. Elias allowed himself a slow exhale. Lyra turned to him, her dark eyes reflecting relief and something else. Gratitude, perhaps, or recognition. "You are strong," she said quietly. "Not like the others. You respect life." Elias felt a warmth in his chest. Respect. That word struck deeper than anything else. Humans fought for survival, yes, but they also fought for principles. He had spent years in battle, and yet here, on a distant world, he felt the meaning of respect in its purest form. "Take me home," she whispered again, her voice lighter now, almost hopeful. Elias understood for the first time that home was not a planet, not a city, not a building. Home was the safety, the trust, the recognition of worth that one earned and gave. He nodded silently. "I will," he said. "I will take you home." As the scout ship climbed higher into the sky, leaving the ruined colony behind, Elias glanced at Lyra. Her presence was a challenge, a mystery, and a gift. He had thought he was exploring a dead world, but in truth he had discovered something far more precious. A chance to honor life, to understand another being, and perhaps to redefine what it meant to be human. The twin suns reflected off the ship's hull as they jumped to hyperspace, leaving the dangers of the surface behind. But the journey had only just begun. Elias knew that guiding Lyra to her home would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. He also knew that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or numbers, but in the courage to respect, protect, and honor life, no matter how different it might be. And so, in the quiet hum of the ship, with Lyra sitting beside him, eyes closed yet alert, Elias felt the first true stirrings of a new mission, one that would test his mind, his heart, and his understanding of what it truly meant to be human. He had discovered life, yes, but more importantly, he had discovered respect. And in that respect, he glimpsed the first outlines of what home could truly mean. The ship hummed quietly as it sliced through the endless black of space. Elias sat in the pilot seat, hands steady on the controls, eyes scanning the stars. Beside him, Lyra remained silent, her long fingers lightly brushing the edge of the console as if absorbing its purpose. Every so often her gaze drifted to the stars outside the viewport, reflecting wonder in something deeper, a longing that Elias could sense but not yet fully understand. "Where exactly is your home?" Elias asked carefully, breaking the silence. He didn't want to push her, but he needed to understand. Lyra's eyes didn't leave the stars. "It is not a place," she said softly. "It is where I am, valued. Where my thoughts, my skills, my being matter. That is my home." Elias frowned slightly. He had been a soldier, a commander, and an explorer. He had charted planets, negotiated treaties, fought battles, but he realized he had never truly thought about what made a home. His own memories of Earth and human colonies had always been tied to buildings, cities, or nations. Yet Lyra's words made sense in a way that touched him deeply. Home could be respect. Home could be recognition. "Then we'll find it," he he said firmly. I'll take you there. Lyra looked at him for the first time, her large eyes shining with a mixture of relief and cautious hope. She nodded. Elias felt a quiet determination settle over him. The journey ahead was long, dangerous, and uncertain. But for the first time, he knew exactly why he was doing it. The next few hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional communication check with human colonies in nearby star systems. Elias needed supplies, information, and possibly allies. He chose a small human settlement on the edge of controlled space, one that valued trade and diplomacy over conquest. As they entered orbit, Lyra's gaze fell upon the colony. The buildings were functional, metallic, and simple, but the energy of the people below was alive. Humans moved with purpose, engaging in trade, repairs, and conversations across languages and systems. Elias guided the ship to a docking bay, and they landed smoothly. Inside the colony, Lyra stepped onto the solid floor cautiously. The humans were curious but respectful. They paused to look at her, whispering among themselves, but no one approached aggressively. Elias noticed the subtle tension, the way the colony's people weighed caution against empathy. "This is safe," Elias said quietly, more to reassure Lyra than himself. "They won't harm you." Lyra's eyes widened as she looked around. She had never interacted with humans in such an environment before, only those who had taken what they wanted, only those who had hunted her kind. Here, there was patience, understanding, and respect. Elias could see her relaxation slowly spread. They visited the colony's council, explaining Lyra's situation and her need to reach her home. Some council members were skeptical. "How do we know we can trust her?" one asked. "She is alien." Elias stepped forward, voice firm but calm. "She has survived on a hostile planet alone for years. She has never harmed humans. She asks for respect, not refuge. Isn't that what we all seek?" There was no denying the truth in his words. Humans were capable of distrust, yes, but they were also capable of understanding and honor. After a few tense minutes, the council nodded. Resources were allocated, maps, guidance, and small escorts for the next leg of their journey. Lyra watched the interactions with quiet fascination. Elias noticed her attentiveness. "You study humans closely," he remarked. "They are curious," she replied, "and strong in ways beyond weapons. I have observed you. You respect life even when threatened. That is rare." Elias felt a surge of pride, not for himself but for his species. Humans had flaws, certainly, but they also had courage, intelligence, and empathy. Lyra's observation reminded him of that. The next jump took them farther from human-controlled space, into regions with limited maps and higher risks. Pirates, rogue factions, and uncharted anomalies awaited them. Lyra assisted quietly, pointing out patterns in sensor readings, predicting movements, and suggesting navigational adjustments. Her intelligence was remarkable. Elias realized she had survived not just by instinct, but by strategy, observation, and understanding. "Your home. It must value intelligence like yours," he said as they navigated through a meteor field. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Yes. Intelligence, cooperation, respect. Those are what make my people strong. Not domination, not fear." Elias nodded slowly. Humans often equated strength with power, but Lyra's words reminded him of something he had learned in his younger days. True strength was in resilience, respect, and the ability to unite rather than divide. Suddenly, alarms blared. A rogue pirate ship had intercepted them, moving fast and aggressively. Elias activated shields and readied evasive maneuvers. The pirates fired, bright pulses of energy streaking across the void. Lyra's eyes scanned the sensors, her mind working in tandem with his. "Move to the right," she suggested. "Then loop back at 43 degrees. They will follow the expected path, not anticipate the maneuver." Elias executed the maneuver flawlessly. The pirate ship, caught in the wrong trajectory, overshot their position. He felt a thrill, not from violence, but from ingenuity and teamwork. Humans had weapons, yes, but it was intelligence, strategy, and cooperation that often ensured survival. Lyra's input had made the difference. After escaping the ambush, they drifted in quiet space. Lyra turned to him.
"You fight, yes.
But you do not kill without reason. You respect life." Elias exhaled. He realized that she was teaching him something as much as he was protecting her. Humans were explorers, fighters, negotiators, but they were capable of learning empathy from even the smallest act of understanding. The journey continued, with days turning into nights, or what passed for night in the endless void of space. Lyra shared fragments of her life, how she had hidden from alien factions, how she had observed human explorers and learned from them, how she longed for a place where her abilities were recognized. Each story built a picture of her home, not as a place but as a state of being, a society where respect, knowledge, and collaboration mattered more than conquest or domination. Elias shared his own stories, too, of battles, lost colonies, friends who had sacrificed themselves for others. Lyra listened silently, absorbing each word, then gently commenting, "Your species is capable of great honor. I see it now." Through the journey, Elias began to understand something profound. Respect was not just a word, it was an action. It was listening, helping, understanding. It was survival without cruelty, strength without oppression. And humans, despite their flaws, carried that potential in ways few species could match. Finally, after weeks in space, they reached the outskirts of Lyra's home system. The planet below glowed softly, oceans reflecting the light of its sun. But even from orbit, Elias could sense the difference. The planet thrived not through domination or fear, but through cooperation, intelligence, and mutual respect. Lyra's eyes brightened. This is it. This is my home. Elias felt a surge of pride, not for himself, but for humanity. They had journeyed across unknown space, faced danger, relied on intellect and courage, and now they were here. The strength of humans, their resilience, and their capacity for respect had carried them this far. "Ready to land?" he asked, voice calm. Lyra nodded, and together they guided the ship toward the surface. Elias adjusted the controls, feeling the planet's gentle pull. As they descended, he observed cities built in harmony with nature, communities working together, and technology used to enhance life rather than dominate it. He understood why Lyra had survived for so long in a world so hostile. Her home had taught her, and now humans were learning in return. Touching down, the ship's engines quieted. Elias opened the hatch, stepping out onto the vibrant surface. Lyra followed, her bare feet brushing the soft ground. For the first time, she seemed completely at peace, her posture relaxed, her eyes filled with recognition. This is what I have been searching for," she said, turning to him. "Not walls, not cities, not nations, but respect. Understanding. Home." Elias nodded, a quiet smile crossing his face. Humans had always sought new worlds, new discoveries, new challenges. But this was different. They had not conquered. They had not destroyed. They had survived, learned, and shown the strength of their spirit. That was humanity at its best. Lyra extended her hand, not in fear, not in demand, but in gratitude. Elias took it. The bond they had formed during their journey, built on trust, courage, and mutual respect, was complete. As they looked out over the thriving cities, Elias realized something profound. Home was not a place. It was the respect you gave and received, the courage to act with honor, and the recognition of worth in every being. Humans had shown that, and in doing so they had earned a place in Lyra's story. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, Elias understood the mission's true purpose. This was not just about guiding Lyra home. It was about honoring life, learning, and showing that humanity, though imperfect, could achieve greatness, not through fear, but through respect. And with that understanding, he stepped forward, ready for whatever came next, knowing that true home was now within reach. The planet below stretched like a jewel, its oceans shimmering and cities glowing with a quiet energy. Elias guided the ship through the atmosphere, careful to avoid the dense towers and the sprawling bridges that connected each city. Lyra sat beside him, eyes wide with anticipation, yet a subtle tension ran through her movements. "This is where I belong," she whispered, "but I am not sure they will trust you immediately." Elias gave a small smile. "Then we'll earn their trust." He had learned from humans and Lyra alike that respect was gained through actions, not words. They landed near a central hub, a vast square surrounded by luminous towers and flowing water channels. The people of Lyra's world moved gracefully, interacting without hurry, yet their eyes were sharp, intelligent, and alert. They noticed the human presence immediately. Elias felt the weight of their gazes, assessing, analyzing. Lyra rose first, stepping forward. She raised her hand in a greeting, a subtle gesture Elias quickly mirrored. The crowd paused. Then a figure stepped forward, tall and poised, with eyes that seemed to pierce through him. The alien leader studied Elias carefully. "Who are you?" the figure asked, voice calm but firm. "Why have you brought her here?" Elias stepped forward, shoulders straight, hands visible. My name is Elias. I am human. I met Lyra on a distant world where she had been hiding from those who sought to harm her. She asked me to take her home, and I agreed. I come with respect, not harm. The leader tilted their head slightly, considering his words. Respect is earned, not assumed. Why should we trust you? Elias nodded. He had expected this. Because I will not leave until you see it. I will show through my actions that humans value life, intelligence, and cooperation. I understand that home is not just a place, but a state of respect, and I honor that. Lyra's gaze met his, silent encouragement passing between them. Elias felt a quiet resolve settle inside him. He had faced battles before, but this challenge was different. Here, survival depended on diplomacy, understanding, and demonstrating the best of humanity. Suddenly, a sharp alarm echoed through the city. Sensors detected movement approaching from outside the perimeter. Unknown vessels entering the system at high speed. Elias's instincts went on high alert. Lyra, what's happening? They are defensive forces, she said quickly. They do not recognize your species. They see strangers as threats. You must remain calm and follow my lead. Elias adjusted his stance. Calm was the key, he reminded himself. He had led troops in battle, negotiated with aliens, and survived in uncharted space. Fear could not guide him here, only respect and careful strategy could. Outside, ships descended, their hulls dark and angular, weapons drawn but not fired. The crowd around them tensed. The alien leader's eyes narrowed, assessing both Elias and the incoming fleet. Lyra stepped forward. These are humans. They come with purpose, not aggression. The approaching ships paused, sensors scanning. One of the human escort ships Elias had used during the journey moved forward, projecting a communication signal. Elias spoke clearly into the system. We come in peace. Stand down. Minutes stretched. Then, slowly, the vessels adjusted their course, halting at the edge of the city. The immediate threat passed, but the tension lingered. The leader turned to Elias, expression unreadable. You see, Lyra said softly, trust is fragile. You have survived by showing restraint, by thinking ahead, by honoring life. That is why we observe you now, not attack. Elias nodded, appreciating the lesson. Trust was earned step by step through consistent choices that reflected honor and intelligence. The leader gestured, and a path opened for them deeper into the city. Elias followed, Lyra at his side, absorbing every detail, the way communities work together, the subtle exchange of knowledge, the use of technology to enhance, not dominate, life. They arrived at a council chamber, an elegant space that combined light and organic structures. Elias noticed immediately the absence of aggression in the architecture. Everything reflected cooperation, intelligence, and respect. This was Lyra's home, a society built on understanding rather than fear. The council members circled him, their expressions neutral but alert. We will judge your actions, one said. Your words are not enough. Elias straightened. I understand. I will act to show my respect and intentions. The council presented him with a challenge. A series of tests designed to demonstrate judgment, creativity, and cooperation. One involved negotiating a dispute between two communities over resource management. Another required designing a solution to a simulated disaster, balancing human and alien needs. A third tested empathy, understanding the perspectives of multiple species simultaneously. Elias approached each task methodically, combining human ingenuity with the lessons he had learned from Lyra. He listened carefully, proposed solutions that honored all parties, and acted with honesty and patience. The council observed, occasionally interjecting, pushing him to consider angles he might not have thought of. Lyra watched quietly, her expression reflecting growing admiration. She whispered softly, They value intelligence and cooperation above all. You understand them. Elias smiled faintly. I am learning. From you, from them, from every step we take. Hours passed. The tests grew more complex, blending strategy with ethics. Elias had faced impossible odds in battle before, but these challenges required more than strength. They demanded understanding, patience, and respect. He realized that humanity's greatest strength was not in firepower, not in numbers, but in the courage to act with integrity. Finally, the council paused, studying him intently. The leader stepped forward. You have demonstrated intelligence, creativity, and most importantly, respect. You understand that life in all its forms must be honored. That is why we accept your presence here. Lyra is yours to guide, if you continue to show the same respect. Lyra's eyes filled with relief and joy. She stepped forward, placing her hand lightly on Elias's arm. "You have done more than I imagined," she said. "You have proven what humans can be at their best." Elias felt a quiet pride, not for himself alone, but for humanity. Humans had fought, explored, and survived across countless worlds. They had faced impossible odds, yet their greatest strength had always been their ability to think, to empathize, and to respect. Even as the Council's approval settled, a new threat emerged. Intelligence reports detected hostile factions approaching the system, drawn by the recent disturbances. They were armed, aggressive, and determined to capture or destroy anything that did not belong to their control. Elias turned to Lyra. "We must prepare. Peace here is precious, but it is fragile. We cannot let violence destroy what you call home." Lyra nodded. "Then we use what we have learned. Strategy, intellect, and respect. That is how my people survive, and how you have survived too." Together they devised a plan. Rather than confrontation, they employed clever tactics, using terrain, communication, and alliances to divert the invaders, protect the city, and minimize harm. Human ingenuity and alien intelligence worked in harmony, outmaneuvering the aggressors without firing a single shot. The hostile fleets retreated, baffled by the combined efforts of humans and Lyra's people. The city was safe, trust maintained, and respect reaffirmed. Elias realized that victory was not measured by destruction, but by the preservation of life, the honor of actions, and the strength of alliances. As the sun set over Lyra's world, painting the skies with colors he had never imagined, Elias and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The people moved below, working, learning, and living in harmony. "You have seen my home," Lyra said softly. "You have understood what I value, and you have earned the respect of my people." "That is more than I hoped for." Elias nodded. "I have learned as much from you as I hope you have from me. Home is not where you were born. It is where respect, trust, and understanding are present. I will honor that always." Lyra's hand brushed his arm lightly. "You do, and that is why I trust you completely." In that moment, Elias understood the depth of the journey they had undertaken. He had not only guided Lyra to her home, but had also rediscovered the essence of humanity. The courage to act with respect, the intelligence to solve problems without unnecessary harm, and the empathy to value life above all else. These were the qualities that defined humans at their best. The challenge was not over. They knew threats would come again, and the world was not without danger. But Elias also knew that as long as humans acted with honor and respect, they could face any challenge. Together with Lyra, they had forged a path that combined human ingenuity with alien wisdom, creating a bond stronger than fear, stronger than conflict. And as night fell over the glowing towers and flowing waterways, Elias felt something he had not felt in years, a true sense of purpose, a mission that went beyond exploration, beyond survival. They were building understanding, earning respect, and proving that humanity, though far from perfect, could be a force for good in the galaxy. And in that realization, he knew that guiding Lyra home was only the beginning. The twin suns of Lyra's world cast long golden shadows across the city as Elias guided his ship to a gentle landing in the central plaza. The city was alive with movement, aliens of every shape and size walking with purpose, conversing in harmonious tones, and working together. Yet there was a watchful stillness as Elias stepped out. They had seen him in action, yes, but now he was in their home, among their people. Lyra stepped beside him, her presence calm yet alert. "They will test you one last time," she whispered, "to ensure your respect is not only in words but in understanding and action." Elias nodded. He had faced hostile forces, navigated pirates, and earned trust through strategy and empathy. But this test would be different. It would not be about survival or combat. It would be about choices, judgment, and integrity. A figure approached, the council leader who had first questioned him. Their eyes held a mixture of curiosity and caution. "There is a situation," the leader said. "An area outside the city has been destabilized. A neighboring community is in danger. You may intervene, but your actions will define how you are remembered here." Elias's heart tightened. The danger was real, and the people affected were strangers. Yet he did not hesitate. "Show me the way," he said. "I will act with respect for all involved." They traveled by hovercraft through sprawling landscapes of glowing flora and flowing rivers. Elias observed the inhabitants of this region, cooperative, thoughtful, yet in need of assistance. A sudden tremor shook the ground. A massive energy storm was approaching, threatening to destroy crops, shelters, and vital communication lines. Lyra's eyes met his. You must act quickly. You cannot control the storm, but you can guide, protect, and prepare. Elias nodded, quickly assessing the situation. He organized evacuation points, directed resources to strengthen shelters, and coordinated teams from both humans and Lyra's people. He gave instructions calmly, listened to feedback, and adapted strategies as the storm intensified. The storm hit with a roar, glowing lightning arcing across the sky, shaking the land. Yet, because of the planning, cooperation, and guidance Elias provided, the community remained safe. No one was injured, and damage was minimized. His actions reflected the lessons he had learned. Strength was not in dominating, but in protecting, guiding, and respecting life. When the storm passed, the leader approached him again. You have acted not as a conqueror, not as a visitor, but as one who honors life. You understand that home is not simply where one lives, but where respect, trust, and understanding flourish. Elias felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Words were not enough to describe the feeling of contributing to the safety and well-being of others, earning respect through action. Humans were capable of so much, he thought. Intelligence, courage, creativity, and empathy were not weaknesses. They were the foundation of true strength. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting pride and relief. You have shown what humans can be at their best, she said. You have earned my trust and the trust of my people. You understand what I meant when I whispered, take me home. Home is respect, and you honor that. Elias smiled faintly, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. The journey had been long, dangerous, and uncertain. Yet in guiding Lyra, he had also rediscovered the meaning of his own humanity. Home was not a city, a planet, or even a country. Home was the respect you gave, the integrity you displayed, and the trust you built. The council invited Elias to witness the city's central celebration, a tradition of unity and recognition. Beings from across the planet gathered, sharing stories, music, and knowledge. Humans, though few, were welcomed for their contributions and for Elias's demonstration of respect and wisdom. Elias observed quietly, noting how every individual played a role, how every voice mattered. The architecture reflected harmony rather than domination. The technology enhanced life rather than controlling it. It was a civilization built on values that humans often struggled to uphold, but here, those values were alive. Lyra guided him to a terrace overlooking the city. This is where I belong, she said. Not because of where I live, but because of the respect, understanding, and trust that exists here. And now, because of you, it is a place where humans are remembered with honor. I have learned that the essence of humanity is not in conquest or survival alone. It is in the courage to act with honor, the intelligence to solve problems without harm, and the empathy to value life. For the first time, he truly felt what it meant to be home, not tied to a location, but to a principle. Respect was the foundation. Trust was the path. Integrity was the guide. Humans could be flawed, yes, but they had the potential for greatness in their hearts and minds. A sudden commotion drew their attention. One of the city's satellites had malfunctioned, threatening to collapse into the main settlement. Citizens and engineers moved quickly, unsure of how to stabilize it. Elias sprang into action, coordinating a team using a combination of human problem-solving and Lyra's insight into her people's technology. Together they stabilized the satellite without damage, earning nods of approval and gratitude from everyone involved. Lyra looked at him, smiling. Even in danger, your intelligence and calm have guided everyone. This is what it means to earn respect. Elias felt a warm satisfaction. Humans had often been judged by their strength in battle, but this was the true test. The ability to act with reason, foresight, and empathy. To protect rather than dominate. To earn trust rather than demand it. Night fell, and the city's lights shimmered across the rivers and towers. Elias stood beside Lyra on the terrace, looking out over a civilization that valued cooperation, intelligence, and respect above all else. He realized that his mission was complete, but not in the way he had expected. He had not conquered, negotiated, or fought his way to success. He had earned respect, and in doing so, he had discovered a new understanding of what it meant to be human. Lyra placed a hand lightly on his arm. You have taken me home, she said softly. Not to a place, but to the respect and recognition I have sought all my life. That is true home. Elias nodded, feeling the truth in her words. And in taking you home, I have also found it for myself. They stood together watching as the city continued its peaceful rhythm. Humans and aliens alike had learned from each other, showing that collaboration, intelligence, and empathy were universal strengths. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but the qualities Elias embodied, courage, respect, ingenuity, were what allowed humans to thrive, to survive, and to inspire others. As dawn approached, casting golden light across the towers, Elias reflected on the journey. The ruined colony where he had first found Lyra, the long and perilous journey through uncharted space, the tests of trust, strategy, and empathy, they had all led to this moment. Humans were not perfect, but their capacity for honor, understanding, and respect could overcome even the greatest challenges. Lyra turned to him one last time. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with quiet gratitude. "You have shown me what it means to belong, to be valued, and to be understood. That is more than any words could convey." Elias smiled, a deep, contented smile. The honor was mine. And now, together, we can ensure that respect continues, that trust is preserved, and that life is valued. In that moment, he understood fully. Home was never a location. It was the recognition of worth, the courage to act with honor, and the wisdom to build bonds of trust. Humanity's greatest strength was not weapons, not numbers, not conquest. It was the ability to live with respect, to act with integrity, and to inspire those around them. And on that glowing world, with Lyra at his side, Elias finally felt it, the sense of true home, found not in a place but in respect. The galaxy stretched endlessly beyond them, full of unknown dangers and wonders, yet Elias knew humanity could face whatever came next. With courage, intelligence, and respect, humans could survive, thrive, and inspire. He turned to Lyra once more. "Are you ready?" Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with trust and joy. Together they stepped forward into the city, ready to meet the future, not as conquerors, not as strangers, but as beings united by understanding, compassion, and the respect that defined what it truly meant to be home. And for the first time, Elias understood completely. Home was not a place. Home was respect.